Hello everyone, and welcome back to Let's Play the Stanley Parable. Last we left off, we took a tour through several other games. And, some of them were of the narrator design, some of them were completely not of his design. I think I'm going to continue on the path of defying this guy. See what we can do.
The meeting room. Yes, that's where everyone would be. Stanley just needed to get to the meeting room, and from then on, he would never be alone ever again.
Right. Sure.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Were these lights always off? Huh. Anyway. No, screw you.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
It is a pretty room.
Standing now in this incredible room, Stanley for the first time understood true happiness. Then the feeling went away, and he felt sad again. Then it came back, and lingered for a minute or two. Now it's only half there. Just a kind of, tingle.
Well, anyway.
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
You know, when we did what he wanted, he let us out of the room, but when we did what we weren't supposed to do, I don't know.
And so he
he gets
through
mean.
The maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
Maybe he really does mean well.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Room closet seems to be available again, but...
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
We've been up that way before. It doesn't really lead to anything different. What's down here? Huh. This seems interesting.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all.
Wait a minute.
None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down?
What the?
Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went?
Oh, wait a second,
And for
what?
that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar.
Yeah.
Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming!
Oh!
This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid.
Yeah.
So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground.
Oh! Oh,
Then
hey!
he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun.
Oh,
And
wow.
Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, The truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job.
Wife?
All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine.
Yes.
I am okay.
Oh, God. But I'm still
Stanley
here.
began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black. This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Is that what normal people do when they encounter people on the street? Ignore them? He is really not making the case for me following what he's saying anymore. If he's a voice in my head...
How long was I sitting there? Stanley wondered to himself. Minutes? Days? Centuries? Did something crucial happen while my senses were turned? He made a note to be more careful with time from now on.
Is that so? This continues to be disturbing.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
You know what? Yeah. Yeah, I did. Because, clearly I am Stanley, said the woman in her very female voice.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
I wonder, are you open again? Because the boss knows what the boss says goes if the boss has suffered losses, and that's what the boss chose. Alright.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once
Boss?
again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk,
I already did
pulling
that.
books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation. But his attention was caught by a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could its purpose be? In fact, this keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below his feet. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
But I
Yet
did
incredibly,
anyway.
By simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He
Yes.
stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Sheer luck, of course. It's not like I'm being guided by some unknown force. I'm going to go down. Once again, he's so very intent on making me do this. Wow, have I really internalized that I'm Stanley? I keep saying me.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest.
I mean,
as
yeah,
though he
I do
felt
feel
more free
peculiar.
To think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
I don't think so. Maybe this is actually
Although
on
this
something.
passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
I mean, I've already done that, so you're not going to
The
scare
door
me.
behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
Yeah,
At
but
this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
yeah, probably. Yeah. Whee. It was labeled escape, however. Whoa, whoa.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Stanley,
Oh God. Oh God. Oh God.
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body,
What?
killing him instantly.
What's going on?
And
What?
yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Is that really? nature paintings. Stanley's computer. What's this? Office layout. This blueprint shows the office from the beginning of the game. The path from Stanley's office to the 2 doors was the first part of the game that was built. Sections have been added and altered throughout development through the core layout, though the core layout remains almost identical to the first iteration. So doors that we can't enter, all the way through to the main choice. The pacing of this opening section was important to get right. This corridor has been moved and altered to make sure the player reaches the 2 doors in a good time. Filing cabinets. What is this? Doors? Choice? The office? Yeah, different... These all sound familiar to anyone who, might use, play Valve games. Office computers. I can turn them off. Credits. We haven't gotten credits before. Made using Source by Valve. And the impeccable Kevin Brighting as narrator. Well, this is actually rather fascinating. This is a museum? Maintenance room, as an early version of the maintenance room. Yeah. Oh, it's missing a lot of textures there, but also a lot of background details. Words. The point of the Stanley Parable HD remix is to lose. The point of the Stanley Parable HD remix is to win. Am I going crazy? Maybe it wasn't the same image that the clock was before. I don't remember. How do I go back? Can you check for me? Greenlight. In September 2012, we submitted the Stanley Parable to Greenlight, Valve's process of approving games for Steam. A Greenlight page had only a series of cryptic photos, which were still enough to win the community's approval. Interesting. More endings, fewer endings, more narrators, fewer narrators, more Stanley, less Stanley. Yeah. So actually, yes, this game went through a lot of development, actually, before actually being released. It had previous iterations, which other people might even be familiar with. An early version of the lounge. A phone. The apartment timer. The previous version of the choice leading to apartment ending, the timer would give you 15 seconds to pick up the phone. Apartment ending. I have no idea what they're talking about. Cargo lift. Okay. There is a lot to see here. The game is now paused. Escape menu. For a long time we had an ending that only ended when the player restarted from the escape menu. Unfortunately, very few players realized this was what they were supposed to do, which was frustrating for everyone. Zending. This screenshot depicts an early version of the ending known as the Zending, which was eventually cut and merged with another part of the game. Zending levers. Okay. So wait, what's this Zending? Went through many iterations. This room represents the 4th version of the ending, and we thought it was complete but decided to abandon it and change it shortly before launch. Well, okay then. Maintenance shaft. The Freedom ending. This is the very first incarnation of the Freedom ending in the game's alpha. Boss's office. The office clock, of which there is only one. But, let's see. Underground. An early version of the underground portion of the game. But, and there's probably even more to explore here. Narration outtakes. Kevin Brighting, the voice of the narrator, recorded dialogue for the entire game roughly 3 separate times over the course of the 2 years of development. These are clips from the early takes that were not used in the final game. Unfortunately, I can't hear them very clearly. So this is a very interesting sort of is there a light? Very, very bright window. Yes. I'm slightly lost. Oh dear. We ran 4 major teaser trailers over the course of the game's development, each meant to convey something about the spirit of the game. This is the first one, released in May 2012. It features a series of broken rooms and the voice of the narrator informing viewers that he is preparing a new version of the Stanley Parable. Okay. Mildly disturbing. That it is. I'm sure that that's available somewhere to see. Yeah. Countdown desk. Freedom ending. This is the freedom ending as it existed in beta. Huh. Countdown room. Early version of the countdown room, okay. But...
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free.
Yes.
Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let...
You know what? I'm gonna take her advice. I don't feel like getting crushed by that thing, so I'm gonna just begin the game again. But it's very interesting, the point that she brought up there, whoever she was. The narrator needs Stanley just as much as Stanley needs the narrator. Obviously, the narrator shapes the world, but Stanley defines the world. Stanley is what explores the world. Without Stanley, the narrator has nothing. Interesting. I'll have to find a way to use that next time on Let's Play the Stanley Parable. Hope to see you then.